Hello, pickle people. We are back. This is another episode of Is This a Pickleball Podcast? I'm your host, Matthew K. Pickleball. I am joined today by the wonderful, by the amazing, by the marvelous Mr. Wilson. Wilson, how are you today?
Hey Matt, I really enjoy thinking about what or how you're going to introduce me every week. It's amazing. It's been good. How's your weekend, Matt?
You know what, Mr. Wilson? I got to go hit up the open play a little bit over at my local courts, but I heard you were out there at my stomping ground getting some good games together. I'm sorry I couldn't join for those sessions, but I did get to hit some paddles around that we're going to talk about today. But I heard you were cheating on pickleball. You playing a different sport this weekend. What is it? What is a 10K? It's a 10,000 dinks in a row. What in the world were you up to?
Boy, 10,000 things would be super hard to do, but no. My passport, which I occasionally still do, I'm a runner. I'm also an avid hiker, and yeah, I ran a 10K here in Pasadena. Um, Yeah, it went well. I was happy with my performance. 6.2 miles in just under an hour. That's not too bad. For those who don't know, that's like a 9 minute and 30 second per mile pace. Um, Matt, I think you need to go out for a run with me one of these days and see if you can hang.
Wilson, I can answer that question right now. I will not be able to hang, but I used to be a big walker. I had some
Mm.
big walk step goals that I maintained for. I mean, big for me, big for this lazy guy here. But then when I got Buffy, she's such a slow walker and she takes so much time. I used her as my excuse, but I'm trying to get back onto it because I don't always get all my pickleball you can't do or I can't do every single day, and the walks actually helped sort of like just my feelings for the whole day. And so I hear you
Yeah.
moving around even if there's not a pickleball or a net nearby is worth it.
Yeah.
But all right, maybe a jog. How about that, Wilson?
Sounds good.
All right. But before we get too far along, a few little housekeeping items. I just wanted to remind folks here on the Matthew K. Pickleball channel, we are always doing the giveaways. We've got, actually, by the time this podcast goes up, Wilson, believe it or not, I will have posted my Honolulu notched foam massive overview video that I've been working on, talking about for forever now. Because when I was working on that video, all of a sudden Honolulu drops a new NF paddle, and we're gonna talk about that later on. But then I had to like go back into the script. I even got play footage without you, without the crew. I had to go to Open Play and beg these folks to let me record some footage, and so that took me a minute, but that video is going to have a giveaway for a Honolulu notch foam paddle, so that is awesome. Check that out. My Thrive Fury giveaway is still running, so check that video out. That's one of my favorite Gen 3 paddles ever, so definitely check it out. And then I still have a Carbon TruFoam Genesis 4 giveaway live on the channel. And Wilson, you might not believe this, but I am going to have a Waves giveaway as well. But
Wow.
that's down the road a little bit. But we're going to be talking all about that, which is kind of a segue. Before we get too deep into the pod, I got a big question, Wilson. I got a big one, all right?
All
Are
right,
you
what's
ready?
that?
Will honeycomb disappear? And I'm not talking about bees, all right? I know they're in a crisis as well. I'm talking about honeycomb polypropylene, the cores that have been used in most pickleball paddles for forever, aside from like the plywood days. But there's a little interesting thing that happened over the weekend. Speak Pickleball, our friend that I had the chance to meet during the Nerdy Tourney, and hopefully you'll meet at the next Nerdy Tourney. He does the roundup of all the reviewers like their paddles of the month. And he does a little Instagram post. Check out his channel, Speak Pickleball, if you his Instagram account. He's doing really cool stuff. But he always does this little survey. And it seems that most of the reviewers, they have access to like all the paddles, right? For the most part, or a lot of the paddles. And they're almost all choosing foam core paddles. And so I had a question for you, Wilson. Do you think honeycomb is gonna go away? What do you think?
That is a tough question to answer because nowadays there's some paddles that I've been playing with, some foam paddles, that really replicate the feel of like the Gen 3 honeycomb paddles pretty well. However, it's not quite one-to-one comparison. So I think there will always be a market for honeycomb. However, because I think the feel that you get from honeycomb is far better than any of the foam paddles that I've used. So for the higher level people, they may continue to use honeycomb. Um, like for example, I think like pros, since obviously they're sponsored and they don't need their paddles to last for very long, I guess. You can see that most of them will stick with Gen 3s or honeycomb because I believe that the feel that you get from honeycomb cores are much better. And since they can replace it basically if they can figure out a way to make a Gen 3 more durable, I think that'd be great. But I think honeycomb is here to stay.
All right, folks, I did not pay Wilson to say that, but it's a great segue because I agree. I think the feel of polypropylene honeycomb, and I've even tried honeycomb paddles with other materials. I've even tried a paddle with a honeycomb core made of wood, and I think the honeycomb, I don't think they're making. It's called the Big Wood paddle. It was really cool, but I don't think they're for sale anymore. But I think that structure that exists in nature for a reason. First off, second off, I agree. It has a very specific feel, and if you're not worried about durability because you're a pro that gets the paddles left and right, or you're a freaking soft hitter like Matthew K. Pickleball and are never gonna delaminate or core crush a paddle, it's hard to top honeycomb. And I think there's still room for improvement in the honeycomb space. And that brings me to my first topic, which is, Wilson, over the weekend, what is this? I got
RubyPro, huh?
the RubyPro, and I think this is my drive side, by the way. So a little bit better pattern, but my blocking side is all over the place. But I got the RubyPro, and I thought I was going to get the Black Opal. We've already talked about the Black Opal quite a bit, but there seemed to be some delays or things going on, and so this one got to me first. And I posted some videos, some Instagram videos. If you're not following me on Instagram, folks, come on. Throw me a follow over there. It's going to help me get the gear so we can test out the gear, and it's super appreciated. And while you're down there, I have got an Instagram link down there in the description. Why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you don't miss those giveaways. But the RubyPro, I got a hit with it. Posted some videos of it looking real glittery because this is using real diamonds in its surface. And I just thought I'd walk through a little bit of a reminder of what this paddle is, because this is not foam. A brand new paddle that's not a foam paddle. This we've already talked about is 12 millimeter cells in its honeycomb, which is very unusual. I've never hit with one, as far as I know, with that wide of cells. And then it's using Kevlar or aramid fiber on its top layer with this diamond texture. like actual, according to the owner of 6-0, there's actual like industrial diamond being used in it, and I don't think you can really see it. I don't
Darn, I
think
was
you
hoping
can
it would
see it.
glitter.
Yeah, it does. It's dark in this room, but I have some videos, some shorts on YouTube and up on Instagram. You can really see the glitter, even with all this ball dust on it. And I'm gonna talk about that in a second. But I was the other specs that I have for this. It's got the 5-inch handle. I know that's important. 5.5-inch handle. I know that's important for all the two-hander folks. And then this Dale, the owner of 6-0, did not want to do Gen 3 builds. He was concerned about durability. I haven't been able to get all the official specs from them. I got them for the Black Opal, but not for this one because I don't think they intended to send this out first. But because of these logistical things, like there's a lot of weather in China, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But so I actually didn't get all the stats from them. But I'm a snooper. I was looking around online, and it seems Ambassadors got a hold of this one a while ago, and they had shared some specs. And my understanding is right here in the sidewalls, there's this thing that they're calling a carbon/foam roll. And it appears to be different than edge foam. And I would actually say some companies would call that Gen 3 just because I've talked to some companies that if they do foam beyond the traditional Gen 2 edge foam, they call it Gen 3. I'm not sure I agree with that exactly, but this has some sort of augmentation. I don't know exactly what that is in the sidewalls, but something's going on. All right. It is not straight up just a normal Gen 2 build with the 12 millimeter cells. And so we already talked, it has this diamond texture, and then it has its top layer is aramid fiber, and then it's got two, if I understand everything right from all my snooping, 2 layers of fiberglass and then a bottom layer of carbon fiber. But that's not what is really next to the honeycomb core. There's then something that 6-0 is claiming to be they call it a power gel. And so I'm not certain if that's an actual gel or if that's just their name for it, but there's something between that bottom layer and the honeycomb. And the other thing that I can't really decipher about this paddle compared to the Opal, which I know more about, I don't know if this is monocoque design like the Opal. I have a feeling it's not, but I don't know. And then I wanted to just remind you what Dale, the owner of 6-0, how he describes how this paddle plays. He describes it as linear and stiff feeling. And if you remember from the last time we talked about 6-0, he described the Opal, which is their other, probably their flagship paddle that's coming out, as the Opal as being non-linear with dwell. Okay? So this one, linear, stiff feel, and that sort of lines up with Gen 2 kinds of builds. More linear.
How was your first impression of playing with it?
All right.
Was it?
All right.
Yeah.
So I've only done a few hits and nothing super competitive, but I do think Dale's labeling of linear and stiff is correct. It was actually kind of refreshing because I snuck this in because I'm working on some next gen reviews right now. And I snuck this in, and it was just nice to have that classic honeycomb feel. The thing about it, though, was this freaking texture is gritty. And I'm not typically a fan of that many layers in the layup. Like the TruFoam, we've talked about this. I think it makes it too propulsive. And I kind of like fewer layers in my layup. Like I like the PaddleTech, which is only 2 layers. But I think this combo, they did a really good job. And I really enjoyed it. You get tons of spin, tons of grab. It is linear, but there is, because of those wider cells, you do get some dwell. to then add some shape, but nothing like crazy propulsive. But it was very, I have to really figure out where it lands on the power spectrum, but it's no slouch. And I am enjoying those crazy 12 millimeter cells. It's fun. And I'm testing another paddle we'll talk about in a little while with these wider cells. But I also have some stats for the stat nerds. All right. And I also sort of found these, I think some of the ambassadors got decks from 6.0. And so these are, I believe, what 6.0 aims for. And so the original Ruby, or the 14 millimeter version, that one had a 6.2 twist weight and a 114 swing weight. So the new Pro 14 millimeter has very similar stats in that department. However, this is PB Core 43. The older Ruby 14 millimeter was 0.39. So yeah, this has got some firepower. It's a fun paddle. Lots of testing left to do, but my initial impressions are this is going to be a competitive paddle, even though it's not a foam paddle. And so I think 6.0 is a good example of like, there's still a place for innovation even with honeycomb paddles. I'm excited to test this out more, and hopefully you can hit with this, and maybe on the next pod, people always want to hear the freaking banger's perspective on things. No,
Sounds good.
Someone that can actually drive a ball. We'll get your thoughts on it. And then, although there have been some delays, my understanding is this is going to be 225. I don't know if that's before or after code. And initially, this was supposed to be at the end of October. I think there are going to be a like 2 weeks delay for even that like target. So we'll see what happens. But also, what do you think of this design, Wilson?
I love the red, and I've always liked 6.0's like unique. What does that say?
Yeah, you can't really see it too well on this camera, but it's on the gram. More reason for folks to go. They put all their little logos for all their tech down there. Yeah, that's
cool.
That. Yeah, I do like the way this looks, and the overgrip is red as well, or the grip is red if I remember right. But yeah, I'm excited about this. I want you to hit with that. But okay. Mr. Wilson, on the other side of things, there's some new foam paddles coming to market. And
a lot of foam
there's one
paddles.
brand. Yeah, a lot of foam. And we're going to talk about them. But one that I don't think's been covered too much are the latest efforts from Diadem. Yes, so it's got that 18K carbon fiber. And so we haven't really talked about Diadem on the channel. We kind of missed out on the previous Blucore paddles, the Warrior Blucores, but these are the Edge Blucore, and there are basically four options. I've got this is their hybrid in 14 millimeter, but they're also doing it in 16 millimeter, and then this is their Pro is what they're calling it, and it is in 14 and 16 millimeter as well. And this is 16.4 compared to the 16.15. And so
there wasn't a lot of hype on the Warrior Blucore, huh?
Well,
I didn't hear too much about
Did you
it.
not? Yeah, so yeah, they did that drop. They're actually one of the first companies to do foam. Diadem was, but initially I think what happened was they seeded out a lot of prototypes to different reviewers. Unfortunately, I got overlooked. It was before you were on the pod, Wilson. if you had been with me, there's no way they would have passed up sending it to Matthew K. Pickleball. But yeah, and so then I think reviewers were playing with those, and then I think then there were the production versions came out, and it was a lot of paddles, and yeah, it wasn't super covered. My understanding, because I try to look into this a little bit, so the Edge Blucore, that's this new line. There's some differences. compared to the Warrior Blue Core that came out earlier. This one has a horseshoe EVA augmentation, as well as other foam enhancements. Whereas the Blue Core was, I'm pretty sure, like mostly just foam. One piece of foam. I don't think it had a bunch of other tech inside of it. And so, yeah, I'm very curious how this hits. You know how, like, so it's kind of like that FC Plus from Honolulu design that we've talked about on the channel, except I'll say, Diadem's like foam seems different than everybody else's. I mean, it's blue first off. Here's a little piece. It's just it's very, very, very hard. I mean, I haven't really gotten to feel like the other foams, but it's gonna have that foam here, horseshoe of the EVA, and then it looks like it has the hard edge foam, and then it even has some EVA pieces here, if I understand everything right. And then if you see here, they've added silicone inserts. I think it's for vibration. I mean, they just really tweaked this thing, so I'm very curious how it plays. And I did also want to share, they had a really good definition for Blue Core. So I thought I'd just share it. But they're just calling it's closed cell expanded polypropylene, so EPP core. And they're saying it's designed to offer a more durable, consistent feel versus traditional honeycomb construction. And Diadem is claiming it promotes longer dwell time and a larger sweet spot. So we'll see how true all that is. But for folks that don't know what expanded polypropylene means, I thought they really defined it super well. So I just thought I'd share it. So it's polypropylene pellets are mixed with resin in a mold that is heated and pressurized. And then as the pellets expand into the mold, it creates an extremely durable and strong, solid core. And this thing is strong. And so some of the claims they're making are it eliminates dead spots, core crush, and delamination, which is what we've heard about other EPP core designs. And so, yeah, thought we'd hit with these. But what's interesting is they have low swing weights. They sent me their swing weights, and so the Pro version, so
the elongated one.
Is it elongated? 16.4.
Oh, it's still a hybrid zone, huh?
Yeah, it's a little. It's 16.41 inches by 7.5 inches. So interesting dimensions. But the 14 millimeter one here, they say has 102.5 swing weight, which I thought was interesting. And then the 16 millimeter has the same. So that will be interesting. And then the 14 millimeter hybrid, 96.6 swing weight. And then the thicker 16 millimeter, 98.97. So these might be up my alley. These are low swing weight numbers, don't you think?
I wonder how they compare to those Quantas, you know? It's interesting. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Because those swing weights are super low.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I like low swing weights, and so I'm excited, but that is pretty low. But
90-something. I haven't seen one that's below 100.
Yeah, and so we're going to hit with those. They're on pre-order right now. Promo code MatthewK is set up with them, and they're priced at, after that discount, about $222. So definitely, we're over that $200 threshold for those. And so it'll be interesting if we see any of those out in the wild. Diadem, especially out here in SoCal, used to be very, very popular. I would see the old Warriors all the time. Like, that paddle was recommended to me when I first started. And then I'd also see
the really thick one? The thick 19
I might have been
one?
I can't remember which. There's the Warrior, then there's the Warrior Edge. It was probably a 16 millimeter version if they had one.
I remember the Warrior Edge then.
Yeah, I remember thinking I went with the X-Pac instead. But I didn't. I'm pretty sure one of Diadem's. I think it was before I knew about Edge Foam because, and so I probably would have done better choosing a Diadem if I had had the extra cash. But back then, but yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious if we're gonna see those out and about because things are freaking competitive right now, and so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Bro, what's going on? $100 foam paddles.
Yeah.
Let's talk it through. What is going on? Is this madness? We've got $100 foam paddles, and so I thought we'd just walk through the pros and the cons because we both have had a chance, I think, to hit with the different options. And so I think this boils down to 3 paddle flavors, right? I think it's the RonbusQuanta series, and then it's the Vatic Pro VSOL Power series, and then the VSOL Pro. And so I was just thinking all of these after promo code Matthew K. If you guys want to support the channel, use that. They're all about $100, and that is quite a low price for any new paddle, let alone a foam paddle. And so I know the one we've had the most time on was the Quanta series, and I thought you and I have, I think, different perspectives on this series. And so I thought, why don't you describe this paddle, and then who you think it would be good for?
Yeah, yeah. So before I start the comparison, I just want to say that's $100 is probably about the price I paid for my X-Back like 2 years ago. And
Definitely.
so it's amazing how far we've come in, you know, a, a year and a half or 2 years, you know. So I'm
Yeah.
glad the people who are coming in now don't have to buy X-Packs off of Amazon and can just buy a legit paddle for the same price.
Now I want
Um,
to get to that though, Wilson, because should someone coming into pickleball get one of these? That's the question. So who do you think this is good for? Because I personally, I don't think this is good. This would be a good choice for a beginner. I don't think any of these are a good choice for someone coming straight like from a really cheap Amazon paddle or no paddle. But I think they all have. I think they help you too much. I think they give you
mm,
too much power, and for someone that hasn't learned placement or drops, I think this is going to be like, I don't know if I describe them as Ferraris, but I think they are some, I don't know, some like Fast and the Furious souped up cars that
okay.
might not be for a learning, like someone with their learner's permit. What I don't know. What do you think? So let's start with this one. Describe what you think about this paddle. Maybe tell me who you think it would be good for.
Yeah, I mean, I more or less I do agree with your last statement about how beginners should not be playing with power paddles. Again, just referring to my mom because I play with her and she's relatively new. I think she's around a 2.5. Um, and I gave her one of my foam paddles just to try, and she's just launching it all over the place. I'm like, "What are you doing? Taking heads off?" So I literally took it out of her hand. I'm like, "No, you're." Yeah, so anyways, back to the Quanta. It's a great paddle. It is definitely one of the lightest elongated paddles I've played with, and I'm sure you can agree with me. Um,
Yes.
it it felt great considering how light it is, how low the swing weight is and everything. It had pretty good pop and power right out of the box, and like I'm sure many people have heard, it would probably be do even better if you added some weight to it. However, that is the problem with the Quanta, I think. To get the most out of the paddle, unless you specifically are looking for something with low swing weight, to get the most power and pop and stability out of the paddle, it would be best to for you to add some sort of weight to it or experiment with the weighting options. But yeah, great, great for people who like to experiment or people with maybe arm issues or younger kids who need a lighter paddle. awesome place to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think you are definitely in the consensus with this paddle. I think this one came about before the Vatics came out, and all the reviewers loved this paddle, but they all freaking added a ton of weight, trying to make budget boomsticks and all that. And to me, with the Vatic options, which we're going to talk about, I think you're missing the point of what this paddle is. If you're aiming to just throw a ton of weight on it, I think this paddle is a lightweight banger, and I think if you only want power on putaways and on some infrequent drives serves, this is a great option. And I think it's for people like me that don't have a very power forward game, but do need power to be competitive in the baseline game, and then to have some shutdown power when I see that one pop up every blue moon that I just want to freaking rip down. But what I think is awesome about this paddle, this is an elongated paddle that plays like a freaking hybrid because it's so lightweight. The swing weight's so low, and so you can have really high hand speed, but you get the reach of an elongated, which is nice because sometimes you need to reach for a ball. You need that length to get what you want. And then, as pros have been talking about lately, with an elongated, you get that sweet spot here, and then you get a little extra spot here where you can do certain shots, which you don't really have with a hybrid. And so I think this paddle is great for someone that loves playing hybrids and is used to that hand speed, but wants some extra reach for certain kinds of shots, and then wants some put away power. So it's really kind of my recommendation for folks that kind of what I've been recommending Gen 3 paddles for. Like, you want to activate power on some hits, but not have power on every hit. But if you're wanting that super dwell, and then that then lets you put a lot of power on like your the output end of it, you'd have to weight this thing up. And so I think we're going to talk about a couple better options for that. And then the other group of people I would recommend the Quanta line for are like some of the people like I play at rec play in the mornings with sometimes. Older folks that struggle to generate power. That are good at pickleball though. That are just never just don't have the power. I think this is a good line to look at. And then of course, yeah, you can weight it up. But why would you weight it up when you've got these? And so I know you haven't hit with these as much, but how do you want to describe your take on these, and then I can shout at you if I disagree, or
Yeah.
what do you think?
So first of all, I am glad they have reduced the swing weight by a lot. I don't know the numbers, but by a lot compared to their first V holy cow,
V
I'm
core,
already V
V core,
core.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got a lot of
So for
time on the
folks
V
that
core.
yeah, so folks that don't know, the V core was the like uh, quote unquote prototype of this one, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
of the power. And so, but that one doesn't exist in the wild. You might see some float around, but that paddle doesn't exist. But so, what were you saying, Wilson?
Yeah, so number one, I'm just glad they reduced the swing weight. These feel like regular normal paddles, as opposed to that hammer that the V Core was. So it's going to be it can be more applicable to more players. But anyways, regarding these VSOLs, I personally like the VSOL Pro more. I honestly think they should have like switched the names up and made this the power, because honestly, from what I've experienced and what the people we've played with experienced, we really like this VSOL Pro much more. I think the sweet spot's bigger. I feel like it had a more pop and power uh, than the VSOL power itself. The VSOL power, the sweet spot felt relatively smaller than this VSOL Pro, and I feel like you would really have to hit the sweet spot in the power, the red one, to in order to really get what you want out of it. It just felt much more. I would say it's more denser, and more muted than the VSOL Pro. The VSOL Pro, I had power. It felt like kind of hollowy, like a Gen 3, like what I'm familiar with. And it was just all around a more usable paddle. Um, yeah, I like the VSOL Pro a lot more.
So yes, I definitely think folks are really liking the Pro. It's got the I believe it's a floating foam core with the foam ring, and I think the paddles with that the foam rings, the softer foam on the outsides, does have kind of that what people liked out of the Gen 3 paddles, which is that sort of that dwell where the ball lives and kind of sits on the core and then has some propulsion off. I actually think this is getting better as more and more companies are doing them. The foam with the outer foam, I think the feel is getting better. I actually personally enjoyed the VSOL Pro as well, and I wasn't, if folks remember, I wasn't a huge fan of the FC Plus and how that propulsiveness really changed up the timings of dinks. Although I'm trying to get a production version to see if I had an outlier. So guys, don't come at me in the comments. I'm working on it. They're sending out a lot of paddles. If you guys stopped ordering them, maybe I could get a review unit. But anyway, and we're going to talk about the FC Plus in a bit. So definitely stay tuned because I've got revised thoughts as the result of testing out some of Honolulu's later paddles. But anyway, I liked this on the VSOL Pro as well, and I think they both feel quick in the hands. I don't know, like, if I agree 100% that one is more powerful than the other. I imagine folks that can generate power can probably generate more power with this as the result of the dwell, but this would you describe this as more linear power output?
Yeah, actually, that's a
Yeah.
great way to put it. This one
So
is linear, and you could get power out of it, but you know what you're going to get out of it. The
yeah.
harder you, I guess it's as lower pop, but the power, the drives, if you can put enough driving power into it, it'll produce power as needed.
Yes. And we could definitely debate pop.
Yeah.
Because I think the dwelly paddles have propulsiveness.
Mm,
This I think feels more like a traditional paddle. And so the ball doesn't dwell as long, in my
mhm.
opinion,
Agreed.
as the other. And so does it pop off sooner? Which one's poppier? I don't want to get into that debate right now, but it plays more linearly, and you can do whatever you want. Like if you're not someone that has a tennis background, has only used honeycomb, I think this might feel more similar to what you've played with. And to be honest, like, I don't know. I think this one weighted up is probably going to feel more like this one. Um, but I could be wrong. I guess we'll have to put some weight on and do a test. But this feels pretty linear to me. Would you agree with that? The rhombus?
Mm, I could see that, but it's a little more propulsive or more. It's not quite, like for sure linear. It's just not as
Fair enough.
powerful. Not as
Fair
powerful
enough.
as the VSOL Pro. It's not as propulsive, but it's
Propulsive,
not
yeah.
quite somewhere in the
But
middle. I don't know.
if you add all the weight, you're gonna
There
get
you
the
go.
dwell. Anyway, so I think this is a good option. But yeah, I also ended up preferring the Pro myself as well. And so yeah, $100 foam paddles. Is it gonna kill all the other foam paddles? Will these kill all the other foam paddles? I don't think so. And we're gonna talk about why in a little bit. But Do you have what do you think?
I I agree with you. I don't think it will knock out all the other competitors without $100 paddles. Um, I have to, since I've been testing a lot of paddles with you the last few months, I've noticed that because before that I would buy sub $100 paddles on sale, right? But now that I'm able to test these paddles with you and borrow your paddles to test, I've noticed there is certain way that more premium paddles feel
Yeah.
compared to cheaper paddles. It is they are nicer in their own way.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
and
mean,
if
yeah, I mean it's hard to beat $100, but yeah, if you've got more room in your budget, you're paying for nuance. And yeah, but my friend that hasn't upgraded paddles for probably 2 years, I had him hit with this weekend, and I think he's going to buy his first new paddle in forever. And he has a tennis background. And one thing that, so he ended up really preferring the Pro over the Power as well. And I think this is a good fit for folks that really just have been hesitant to upgrade paddles because it's hard to like buy a paddle and then know 1 month later another paddle is going to come out that's going to top it potentially, right? I do not think we're going to see $100 foam paddles. I think like we might see more $100 foam paddles. I don't think we're going to see sub $100 foam paddles. I think you could buy any of the three $100 foam paddles we've been talking about and feel like it's a good value, especially for a while. Like, and yeah, I mean, I think they're hard to beat at $100 price point, but we're going to talk about if you jump your budget, if you have the budget, what you're paying for in a bit, because there's some interesting new paddles that just came out that I think really speak to that. And yeah, I guess that is kind of brings me to, I wanted to chat with you. All right, we're going to move on to our next section, our testing section. It's going to be a little different than usual, but what are we testing right now? This segment is presented by our friends over at SwiftNet. If you're looking for the best portable net, one that's made out of aerospace grade carbon fiber, check out SwiftNet. Promo code MatthewK will get you the best price. And with that out of the way, what in the world happened last week, Wilson? The waves came out, and boy, they had a hard time. It was rough. It was rough looking. Pickleball Studio. I don't know. Would you say they roast? Did you check out his video? I thought it was kind of a roast of the waves line. Would you
yeah,
agree?
I don't think Carbon deserved that.
Well, I watched this video, and to be honest, I have a video of the waves like in the works. But I hadn't been hitting with it because I hit with the waves when I first got it, and I know you did too. But then I took a little bit of these were in the bag for a bit because I was in the middle of some other videos, and so I'd hit with the waves a while ago, and I really liked it. I thought it was an improvement, and we talked about on the last pod my issue with the Genesis, that the first TruFoam paddle was the it was a little unpredictable, and I thought it had to do with that it having a patch of fiberglass as opposed to a full face of fiberglass. So any miss hit or maybe even a center hit, you're getting different amount of power output. The propulsiveness is different depending where you hit the ball. And I'm not always hitting dead center, or maybe I am hitting dead center with the Genesis, and I didn't like how fast that came out. I don't know, but I thought whatever they did with the waves I liked it. It was more predictable. It felt more familiar to me. And then I stepped away from the waves, and I was wrapping up some. I was actually hitting with some more foam paddles. And then so I watched Pickleball Studio Chris's video, and his criticism of the waves paddle was he thought it felt inconsistent. So kind of like what I thought about the Genesis. And what I realized and what we were talking about with Speak Pickleball's sort of like survey of all the reviewers, most of the reviewers have been hitting with foam like the whole year. I think you and me are the outliers. We've been hitting with honeycomb still, right? And so I feel so I saw Chris's video, and then I went and hit with the waves a little bit more, and this video is coming, and I was trying to figure out what in the world he was talking about. And he was kind of highlighting like he thinks the waves design might be creating an inconsistent feel. And I could kind of see what he was saying after having now played with a lot of foam paddles and then hitting with the waves. It's definitely different than the feel of some of the other foam paddles. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? I'm not so sure. I'm going to have to keep hitting with these. But I do think, though, it was tough. It was a tough week to drop a foam paddle because it's going to get compared to what everyone's hitting with right now. The Vatics that we've been talking about, and then the Ronbuses. And so that was just a tough moment to drop a foam paddle. But, like, what do you think? Like, I mean, is every paddle price above $100 just going to be a stinker? Like where, like, do you think this pricing makes sense? Do you think 100, like, does every paddle now need to be $100? Like, where are we at with foam?
No, I think there's a place for a budget paddle. The Carbon is definitely a premium top tier paddle. Um, and I think I'm thankful I'm able to be in this position where I am working with you and I get to test out these nicer paddles because on a regular old me at the court would not be purchasing paddles like this. But I do notice there is a much higher quality um, like playability that the Carbon has compared to, the Ronbuses and Vatic Pros. Like this paddle, I I feel like it's more of a all court leaning control foam paddle. It's definitely not a power paddle. I think that is where Carbon kind of got in trouble because they were marketing as a power improvement compared to their Genesis line, which may or may not be because it's very negligible. But it wasn't like, earth-shattering difference. So I think that's why they kind of got a little backlash, maybe. But anyways,
Yeah, I
my overall impression is that it's a very controllable paddle. I think it would be great for people who are just looking into getting their first foam paddle. It's definitely doesn't have the power that could surprise you. Like for me, I love this the True Foam Wave in singles because I could aim at any corner and hit any shot I want with pinpoint accuracy. And even in doubles, I have the control with and I don't even have to worry about the popping up balls and stuff. I could keep the ball down like no tomorrow. Like it's easy to control. Unlike something like I don't know, the Flick F1 or something where I would occasionally pop up balls. Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. I think in a pressure situation, the Carbon True Foam Wave would do me very well. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think I disagree a little bit. I definitely think if this isn't power, I think it's all court on the power side of things. But I can see where you're coming from. I think basically the $100 budget foam paddles and then the non-$100 budget or the non-$100 foam paddles, what you're paying for more than anything is feel, consistency, and reliability.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the difference. And yeah, you get a feel that is different. The reliability about this, I guess, is a bit of a question mark. It sounds like you've hit with it quite a bit. Like, I didn't notice the mishits the way Pickleball Studio is describing, but then I did notice the feel, having done a lot of foam paddle testing, did like ding my radar in a way it didn't coming from honeycomb. And so I think this is a great paddle for folks coming from honeycomb moving into foam. But yeah, it is on the pricier side. And I do think Carbon kind of like hurt themselves by positioning it as a power paddle when it's too close to the Genesis for that. And then yeah, I do think it's hard to do a new paddle at the same price point. I think it might have been better for them to like have made this cheaper than the initial one because they were on the vanguard and they could really name the price for their foam paddles when the Genesis launched. But the landscape is different. But you know, I don't really know. Like, I'm not a business whiz. This ain't Matthew K business. This is Matthew K pickleball. But I do think, yeah, it's tough. But yeah, and it's tough because that money, like their premium price tag, like they're trying to live in like the Selkirk and the Yola price points. And it's kind of like, I'm sure really frustrating. Like they developed like this foam tech. It seems like that's my understanding, that then a ton of factories are now like ripping off and doing at a lower price. So I don't really know how you deal with that other than like building up loyalty with your customers, with your fan bases, really highlighting the differentiator, which is the feel. In this case, not everyone likes it. I think there is a case to be made where like, I don't know. That's going to be in my review probably, but like what has been highlighted didn't stand out to me coming from Honeycomb, but now like that's in my head, and coming from having tested a lot of foam paddles, I can see there's a difference. But once again, I don't know if it's a negative or a positive. But the other thing, like, yeah, that price tag is going to innovation. So like you really have to choose if you want to support a company that's doing the innovation. And then one thing that I think got overlooked by the reviewers, Carbon, my understanding is when they sell one of these paddles, they are giving a wood paddle to like school programs, like a wood paddle they designed, which I'm trying to get because I want to hit with one of those. But yeah, I think Carbon is very future forward looking. Like first off, they're pricing stuff where they can maintain a company. I don't think all the budget companies are doing that. And secondly, they're making sure the sport doesn't die because they're getting paddles into the hands. They're introducing the sport to the younger folks. And yeah, if that doesn't happen, like pickleball is not going to continue to grow. We're not going to see the innovation, and then open play is going to be freaking no one's there. So yeah, I guess you're paying for the innovation and then a company that's trying to grow pickleball. And ultimately though, if you're just looking at it from like dollars and cents, like you really like have to see if that feel is premium to you, and that's kind of subjective. But what's great about Carbon is they got that 30-day test drive, so you can just try it for yourself. Like it's so hard, I think, to know how a paddle feels based off of like what a reviewer says, and so maybe it's the exact thing for you. I personally like the Waves better than the Genesis because I feel it's more predictable, and I thought the feel was more pleasant and easier to get used to coming from Honeycomb. But yeah, there's some debate about those Waves, that design, the moving away from just holes or recesses or whatever they called it, to these lines. If that is a good feel or not, the jury's still out for me. I have more hits to do. But speaking of premium paddles, the now I guess everything over 100 is premium. I don't know. Like I'm not talking $333, but our friends over at Honolulu Pickleball have finally listened. I guess all the emails you sent to them, they finally got more traditional elongated. Of course, they had to do their own spin on things, but a more traditional elongated paddle. But these are $100. These are, after promo code Matthew K, I think they're closer to 175. And so the question is, like, can these compete with the $100 paddles? I like are people just buying the Vatics and the Ronbuses for forever? I don't know. I personally really like the feel of Honolulu's paddles. And I think these are a huge jump from the J7 shape. I know you've gotten a chance to hit with these. These are covered in my big video on them. What do you think? What are you getting from these that you don't get from the $100 paddles? $100 foam paddles,
Yeah, so
if anything.
I you do, and I am so happy that they finally came out with the J6 shape. Um, I my preferred version is the FC Plus. It just feels so much better. It's I feel like it it pocketed the ball more, while the NF seemed a little more linear in a way, I guess. But I do like the way that I can shape the ball with the FC Plus, the red one. Um, and so, yeah, if you want to compare it to like the $100 paddles, this one, I guess one thing you can compare, you can say that the premium paddles do better than the budget friendly ones. That I think I could play a tournament right out of the box. Like, once I just, I dial it in and stuff, I would be okay with playing with this J6 FC Plus in a tournament. I can't quite say the same with the budget Vatic Pros and the Quantas. I may have to do some alterations and stuff. And to be honest, not everybody may want to do that. Some people want to play with the paddle right out the box. They want it just perfect right out of the factory, and I think this would be perfect for them. Also the feel, even though they have similar, not the same, because one's floating core and this is a diving board style foam core. The feel still feels much better with these Honolulus. I'm able to shape the balls much better. It's just the way it feels. I'm able to just like the carbon. I have much more control for some reason with these more premium paddles, especially this J6. If you watch the review one of these days, if Matt decides to share it, I was able he or his partner tried to lob us, and I was able to hit a nice, like, beautiful passion shot, past him, and all he can do
Yeah,
was clap.
that's not making the review.
But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I
Quality,
mean,
there is the quality. It's a great paddle.
yeah, I mean, I think the non-$100 paddles, what you're paying for is the playability and the touch and the feel, like we are talking about, I think, a little earlier. I think both of these, for me, I'm a convert on the FC Plus. I know I've had issues with the J2 FC Plus. I'm starting to think I had an outlier. I know everyone's come at me at the comments. Guys, leave me alone. All right, I'm trying to get another unit. I have tested out this one, and I understand what everyone's been saying about the FC Plus. I very much like the dramatic dwell, but I could control it. I could control it out of the box. And yeah, it has dynamic power output, but it's controllable. I think the stretched out face might cater to that design a bit better than some of the other Honolulu paddles. But yeah, I really enjoyed the FC Plus as well. And then the J6NF, I would describe as more linear. It sits very nicely with the other NF paddles. I do think like this one robs the audience of the J7NF a bit, because I think this one just has so much more stability compared to that one, and more power. I do know my test unit of the J7NF kind of sat a little lower on Honolulu's target swing weight than I think what the actual units going out to customers will. But I think if you want a control paddle with reach, J7NF. If you want an elongated paddle with reach, but with the power you associate with elongated, the J6NF or the FC Plus version. but this one is definitely more dynamic. I think this one's going to be very popular. I talked about that in my NF video, and I hope to do kind of like a breakdown of all the FC Plus ones. But yeah, I think that higher price gets you playability for more kinds of players, less need to customize, and I don't know about the durability. That remains to be seen. These do have the 1-year warranty from Honolulu, which is nice to see. But yeah, I guess the jury's out. Like, maybe it's gonna just be Vatics and Ronbuses for forever, but I think there's room. Like, I think Honolulu's priced in a competitive, and it is priced competitively. I think the carbons is what we talked about earlier. Like, you gotta really recognize what you're paying for, and that 30-day test drive with the carbons is very nice. And then yeah, I know we're really like going overtime right now.
All good.
Yeah, well, people don't like the epic long ones. So before we wrap up, do you want to share some? I know you were having a chance to hit with BodyHelix's Falcon paddle. Do you want to tell us how it compares to the? You're a big fan of the F1, right?
Falcon. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the F1. Overall, these, of course, I always like to say that I wish they had longer handles, but overall, thankful that these are elongated paddles that I got. F1 definitely top tier power and top tier like not really control, but ball shaping. I mean, I could really hit this one hard and keep the ball in, which is amazing. The Falcon, it's definitely it's interesting. At the end of the day, I'll still choose the F1 more the over the Falcon. And the only reason is that this being thinner, it's amazing, like hand speed wise, but stability and power, it's not quite there. And I'm not sure. I know that they
Okay.
have cork pods in here, and I'm not sure
Yeah. So it's
exactly
13.
how. Mhm.
Yeah, it's 13 millimeters, so pretty thin. And yeah, the big change is from the 16
So
millimeter. The big change is, yeah, it has these pieces of cork inside of them.
yeah, and I don't know if that's a marketing gimmick or anything, but I didn't really notice it. Um, and yeah, I mean, overall, it's a great paddle, but definitely it doesn't have the pop and power or the shapeability as I would get from this
Okay.
16 millimeter F1. Um,
Well,
but if you this was great at the kitchen. My hand speed was amazing with this one,
this
and you would.
sounds like it might.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Falcon might be a Matthew K pickleball
I
paddle,
think you'll
and
like it.
the F1 might be the Wilson paddle. So we'll see. I have a feeling like, why would they, like, this one works for you, so why would you need another one? So this one might be kind of like how I like the RonbusQuanta without the weight. So I'll
Mhm.
check it out. This one might be more my wheelhouse. But
Yeah.
all right, all
Also,
right,
just a
all right.
quick thing I noticed though in other reviews, the cork pods, they don't actually go all the way through. It's like, think of it, it's like a foam puck with a layer of like a thin layer of cork on top and on bottom on both sides. So I'm curious how, like,
Oh,
I don't think I noticed that any improvement or any benefit from the the pods. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
all right.
But overall, great hand speed, a good pop. But of course, since it's a 14 millimeter, it's overall lighter paddle in my hand. I don't have the same stability as I get with 16 millimeter. But of course, anything can be fixed with a little bit of weighted tape. But
That's
yeah, I
right.
hope
And
you'll have to give this a try and tell me what you think, since this seems like it's in your wheelhouse.
yeah, and
There you
then
go.
BodyHelix actually has interesting, I presume non-toxic weight that is like these rubber strips. So if
Hmm.
you're buying paddles from them, you might want to check that out as well. And then before we get to our tip of the week, I
Hmm.
have a couple little. I had a couple little things we've been testing. All right, folks. I have this. My little pink pickle right here. This is from a company called PicklePouch. You can find them at picklepouch.com. And it's a little ball case. And for me,
Oh.
it's where I put my 3D printed balls. But Pickle Pouch, they're actually a veteran owned company, and they're making these cool little pickleball pouches. You can get them in multiple colors. They're 25 bucks before code. I'm trying to get a code set up with them. Try Matthew K. I don't know if it will be set up, but they've got a lot of cool cases, and yeah, support a veteran owned business. That's called Pickle Pouch, picklepouch.com. But inside are my 3D printed balls. And folks, we hit them. We hit with them. And so right here, you got the orange one and the gray one. And we have talked about these on the channel before. They're called the DigiPro, or they're DigiPro, yeah, I think that's what you call them. But they're by a company called AccelDigitalSports. And they also have a little trainer ball option as well. But you'll notice they do have some squish to them, and they're 3D printed, and these are actually on the USAP Quiet Approved list. That's how I found out about them. And they're not cheap though. I believe it's 30 bucks per ball. And we actually hit with one, and we're actually comparing it to the competitor. If you see here, I'd say these have more squish. I mean, these you could probably squish or compress as much, but they are stiffer than this one. This one plunges faster. The 3D printing design is different for this one, and this one is from a company called NETX. They claim it's an unbreakable ball. It has a 6-month warranty, and Building Pickleball over on his Instagram channel, like he did a little video where he smashes pickleballs with a hammer and they crush, and this thing, it did not crush. This is also expensive. It's 80 bucks for a 3-pack. I don't think I have a code for any of these companies. I'll try to get a code. And this company, NetX, makes a lot of other 3D printed products like shoes, like tons of different stuff. But this is the one we were testing. And yeah, so we tested 2 brands of these 3D printed balls. So this is the DigiPro one by AccelDigitalSports. I'm not really a big fan of this one. Do you remember hitting with this? Like,
Yeah. Actually, I like this one more
oh,
than the NetX white one. The NetX
oh,
white one, for some reason, oh, the main reason though is that the white one would release a bunch of like plastic dust in the air, and I don't know what I'm breathing in. I swear, every time we hit it, it just goes. eh, There'll be a puff of white plastic in the air, so I don't know what that was all about.
I bet you
Uh,
that's after a few hits. I bet you that's gonna. I bet if we played a whole game, that would not
uh,
happen on game 2. But I hear you. It
okay,
definitely was puffing smoke the whole time. So,
yeah.
but all right. So okay, but all right. So you didn't like that, but now okay. Then tell me why you like this one.
Um, well, because it didn't have puffy smoke out, but overall, they both felt pretty similar to me. I like them, and I could see myself playing with them like early in the morning or late at night if there are neighbors nearby the courts. Um, but unfortunately, they are not, because they squish and they compress. They're not going to ever really play as the same as a hard piece of plastic, right? But I think they're great substitutes. But they do feel a little heavier, and you can actually create some power because it compresses and then bounces back after every shot. But I had fun playing with them. I had no problem with them, and I wouldn't mind playing a few games with you with them next time.
All right, we should try them. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm not convinced we tested these enough, so we need to hit some more with them. I personally liked the Next X version. I thought that played more like a pickleball, and I wasn't as freaked out by the puffs of dust as you were. But I hear you. Yeah, I thought this one played more like a normal ball, but I don't think. I'm trying to figure out why you would buy one of these because they're so expensive. And I personally think if you're doing it for quiet, like I've tried a bunch of different quiet pickleballs. I still like EnhancePickleball's NinjaBall. But yeah, they do compress, which gives you a lot of dwell, kind of like the way foam paddles give you dwell, but it's coming from the ball, and you can add a ton of spin. I personally really prefer these. And they're way more budget friendly. And I'm playing, folks. Let me know down in the comments. I have been like trying to like work on a video covering quiet pickleball gear for a while now. But is that something, a big video about all that? Would you watch that, or is that something that we should just do a podcast on? Because I've been dropping, I used to try to incorporate accessory reviews inside my paddle reviews. And then I realized no one can find them when they YouTube search or whatever, because they're baked into a video about a paddle no one now cares about. And so I was trying to like post those on the channel as their own reviews. But now no one's watching those because they're really short. And so I don't know, like what do you guys think I should do? And on that note, before we move on to the tip of the week, I am like, I don't know if this is going to be a dedicated review, but I am testing out recovery shoes from a company
Nice.
called Stand Plus. You've probably seen these on Instagram. These are like shoes you wear after you play pickleball. Like you'd probably see a lot of folks like put on flip flops or whatever walking off the courts. These are some crazy, like probably over designed recovery shoes from a company called Stand Plus, and they are freaking nice. Too nice, too nice. I'm not a good enough athlete to warrant this kind of recovery. I don't have that intense of a workout, but I'm really enjoying them. They're super durable, have an insanely nice insole, and I'm testing out a couple different recovery shoe options. I don't know if that's going to be a dedicated review video or what, because no one watches the shoe review videos. Prove me wrong, folks. Here's a link to my let's say my shoe here's a shoe review right here. I'm linking it. Click that. If you watch that, I'll know shoe reviews are in demand, but I have a feeling there won't be a lot of clicks. But yeah, I'm trying out a few different recovery shoes, and so hope to talk about that on the channel. I know you're testing out some shoes as well, which we'll talk about soon. But why don't we just get better at pickleball, Wilson? Are you ready? It is
Sounds
time
good.
for the tip of the week. This is presented by our friends BodyPickleball. Get your cool hats, get your overgrips, get your weight, whatever you need. They've got it. Everything but the kitchen sink. And it's because you're not supposed to be playing in the kitchen, folks. Why would you need the sink? All right. Tip of the week. What is it, Wilson?
Yeah, so first, that's a really nice hat, Matt. It looks like a really high quality, like melon looking hat because I saw that little tab. Then I realized it was a Bodhi
Got it.
pickleball hat. Yeah, so that's awesome. So my tip of the week, presented by Bodhi. Um, One thing I noticed um, during a lot of rec play or just play in general is that now that there are a lot more bangers, right? Just because that's the
Thanks,
environment we're
Vatic.
in.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Vatic.
Vatic and Rhombus, right? No,
And
but
Ronbus.
um, people are banging more. That's just part of the strategy now. And what I've noticed, even myself, is that when you're up at the net and someone's banging at you, driving the ball at you from the baseline or even from the midcourt, when you're trying to counter it or punch it back, a lot of times you may, or I do, will dump it into the net. because it's coming at you so fast with so much topspin, and then you try to keep it low, of course, and you end up dumping it right into the net, and you're out of that point, right? So what I would recommend people to do, and of course you need to drill this and practice this before you take it out to rec play. Try to keep your paddle a little more open, as opposed to being closed. You know, when you're doing topspin rolls and flicks, yeah, it's okay to keep it a little closed. But when you're like in a defensive situation or you're trying to counter something, it's okay to open it just a little bit. Not like crazy open where it pops up, but a little bit more open. And instead of going downwards into the net or into the kitchen or at your opponent's feet sometimes, since they're coming forward and they're in the back, if you open a little bit and make sure you swing in more of a linear and straight swing path as opposed to down. If you swing straight, you'll be less likely to dump your ball into the net. So keep it ever so slightly open, or if you're willing to risk it a little bit, keep it parallel to the net. But the most important thing is your swing path. Don't go dumping it down into the net. Like you're like, oh yeah, I don't want it to pop up. I'm gonna hit it down. Just go in a straight linear path, and that'll help you keep the ball in play, not into the net. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you know your swing path when you're playing. And yeah, that's my tip of the week.
Awesome. I'm going to add to it, Wilson. I'm going to add
Yeah,
to it because we're fighting bangers. It's
all
getting
the
it's
time.
getting lethal out there. Um, Guys and gals, you don't need to hit every ball back to a banger. You can block as long as you have your paddle facing oriented the right way. That power don't. I've noticed people are wanting to. I've played with some folks that probably had power in their game, but now it doesn't seem like it as a result of facing these power paddles, and they're trying to overcompensate, and they're doing what you're saying, dumping into the net, and it's because they want to see that they have more power. They want to see that they're more powerful, and they're swinging. And folks, use their power against them. Block. Like you don't need to swing at everything. And so
That's
yeah, but yeah, it really
yeah,
does start with
that's a great point. I mean, even with most people will have power paddles or something with a decent amount of power. And if you were just to block it, like you said, if you block it straight instead of trying to add power and dumping it into the net, if you were to block with a power paddle, it kind of it kind of has power already from just the block. And you know you'll use their power against them. And if you have a power paddle and you're blocking, that'll produce some power on its own. So you don't have to worry about actually generating your own power like you would in a Gen 1 paddle, you know. There's just power in
but
your paddle itself.
yeah, but you still gotta have that open paddle face because you're
Yeah.
like if you're hitting down or pointing down, you're in trouble. So all
Hmm.
right, tip of the week, Wilson. Thank you for that. And before we wrap up, a few reminders. Don't forget about those giveaways. We got a Honolulu notch foam paddle being given away for free on the channel. Presuming I got that video up. I think I did. And then we still have a Thrive Fury. We have a Carbon TruFoam Genesis 4. And then super soon, we're going to have one of those Waves paddles. So make sure you subscribe. Why don't you throw us a like on this video? Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, whatever. The bigger this audience gets, the easier it will be for us to get gear to review so you can figure out where to spend your hard-earned cash. But most importantly, I hope you get to pickle soon. Wilson, do you hope they get to pickle soon?
I hope everyone gets a pickle soon.
We both hope everyone gets to pickle soon, but just don't forget, it's about having fun.